I didn't leave the country because of the divorce. That's the version people prefer, but it isn't accurate. The truth is quieter than that. The marriage had already been fading for a long time, like a room where the lights are still on, but nobody's speaking anymore. By the time the papers were signed, there wasn't a dramatic ending. No screaming, no shattered plates. Just a strange, shared exhaustion. A few months later, an opportunity came up overseas. A position with a partner office in another country. I said yes mostly because it felt easier to start somewhere new than to keep walking past the same grocery store, the same coffee shop, the same neighbors who had watched our life together from a polite distance. Leaving felt less like escape and more like closing a door that had already been half open for years. For a while, things were simple. Work filled most days. I learned the rhythm of a different city, different weather, different time zones that made conversations with people back home slightly inconvenient, which turned out to be helpful. Then one evening a mutual acquaintance sent me a message. She got married this weekend. No build-up, no warning. Just that. I stared at the screen longer than I expected to. Not because she remarried. People move on. That part wasn't surprising. What stayed with me was the timeline. The divorce had barely settled into the past, and suddenly there was already a wedding. Apparently the guy had been around for a while. I didn't ask many questions. I told my friend I hoped things worked out for them, and went back to work. Still, small details drifted in over the next few days. Someone had posted photos. Someone else had attended the ceremony. From what I heard, the wedding itself was normal enough. Outdoor venue. Late afternoon light. One of those carefully curated events where everything is designed to feel effortless. Then something small happened. Not dramatic. Just one of those casual comments people make when their brain moves faster than their judgment. A guest, someone who had known both of us years ago, was apparently chatting with a group during the reception. At some point he said, half joking, something like, "Well, at least this relationship got its start before the ink on the divorce even dried." He meant it lightly, from what I was told, the kind of remark that lands in the air for half a second and then disappears. Except this time it didn't disappear. The room apparently went quiet in that subtle way people try to hide. The guest realized immediately that he had stepped on something. My ex reacted before anyone could smooth it over. Not a scene exactly, but close enough that people noticed. Her voice got sharp, defensive. She started insisting the timeline was wrong, that people didn't understand, that rumors were unfair. From what I heard later, the reaction was bigger than the comment deserved. That's the thing about certain truths. Sometimes it's not the accusation that causes the damage. It's the way someone responds to it. I didn't hear any of this until a few days later. By then I had already moved on with my week. I was finishing a late dinner in my apartment when my phone rang. The number looked familiar, though I hadn't seen it in months. I answered without thinking. For a second there was just breathing on the other end. Then she spoke. Her voice sounded the way people sound when they're trying to hold themselves together in front of someone who already knows too much. "I heard you moved," she said. "I did." A pause followed. The kind where both people realize they're standing in the middle of a conversation they never planned to have again. She asked how the country was, how the job was going. Small questions that felt strangely formal. I answered them calmly. Eventually the real reason for the call surfaced, though not directly. "I guess people are talking," she said. "People always talk." Another pause. Then she told me about the wedding. Not the happy parts. Just the moment with the guest. She repeated the comment almost word for word. I didn't react much. There wasn't anything useful to say. After a while she asked, "Do you think that's what people believe?" I thought about the question. It wasn't really about gossip. It was about the story she had built around how everything ended. "I think people believe whatever makes the timeline easier to understand," I said. She was quiet for a long time after that. Then she asked about my life again. This time more carefully. Was I seeing anyone? Did I like the city? Did I think I would stay there permanently? It felt less like curiosity and more like someone checking the distance between 2 points on a map. I answered honestly but briefly. No bitterness, no nostalgia, just facts. At one point she said something that caught me slightly off guard. "I thought you'd be angrier." "Why?" I don't know, she said. Maybe because everything happened so fast. The thing is, anger had already run its course months earlier. It had burned itself out quietly while the marriage was still technically intact. By the time I boarded the plane overseas, there wasn't much left of it. I hope the wedding was good, I told her. It wasn't sarcasm. Just a simple statement. She didn't respond immediately. When she did, her voice sounded tired in a way I hadn't heard before. Yeah, she said. Most of it was. We spoke for a few more minutes about nothing important. Work schedules, time zones, the strange experience of suddenly talking like acquaintances. Eventually the conversation reached its natural end. Before hanging up she said, almost as an afterthought, I didn't plan for things to look the way they do. I know. And I did know. Life rarely lines up neatly with the stories people tell about it. After the call ended, I sat in my apartment for a while listening to the city outside the window. Later that week another friend mentioned hearing that the wedding had ended on an awkward note. Apparently the moment with the guest lingered longer than anyone expected. Not because it caused a fight. Because it made people think. I didn't follow up on the details. The next morning I went to work like usual. Took the train across town, grabbed coffee from the same small place near the office. For the first time in a long while, the past felt exactly where it belonged. Not erased. Just far enough away that it no longer shaped the room I was standing in.